Welcome to Fleet Auto News Podcast. I'm Caroline Falls, and today I'm speaking with Philip Browne, Managing Director of Autorola Australia, an online auctioneer of used vehicles. We're going to talk about how Autorola Australia went net carbon neutral and the journey to get there. Hi Philip, thanks for coming on the show to share your story about how you went net carbon neutral, something a lot of fleets are striving to do right now.
Thank you, Carolyn. It's great to be here.
Let's start with what year Autorola Australia became net carbon neutral, because I think you might be a bit ahead of the curve in this regard.
Carolyn, we started looking at it in the middle of last year, so that was 21. And we, at that point, we felt there was an opportunity, one, for us to be greener than we are, and two, a lot of our customers are looking to do business with people who are net carbon neutral. So we took the opportunity to have an audit done last year to measure the size of our footprint. That was conducted by a company called Impact Sustainability. So they audited our footprint, and that meant they looked at things like our electricity, our company cars, our flights, etc. And they came back to us with the size of our footprint. We then evaluated the sorts of people that we might like to offset that footprint with. And after looking at a number of the offset providers, we chose Green Fleet Australia Proprietary Limited. We chose them because they are very much a local operator, and we were very keen to make sure that what we were contributing money to was happening here in Australia. So we started talking to them late 2021, and we officially became net carbon neutral in early March this year, 2022.
Okay, so that's quite recent.
Very recent.
You've already touched on a lot of the journey. There's a lot to unpack, but I was just curious too, because you're a Danish headquartered company and they're crazy environmentally aware over there. So was there any sort of like push or motivation from there?
That's a good point, Carolyn. The Danes, as you probably know, are very, very green and very environmentally aware. We're all aware that they spend a lot of time riding bikes around and things like that. So they are very focused on the environment. But as a part of Autorola, we chose not to go with the program that head office was running, which was focused heavily on Europe. We wanted to go alone with our program because we wanted to make sure that what we did happened here in Australia. So in discussions with senior management, they were very happy for us to go alone. It did mean we could move a lot quicker. It did mean that we were conforming to what was required here in Australia, and our offsets are all programs here in Australia. And our colleagues in Denmark, they haven't actually achieved net carbon neutral as yet, but they're working on it. But of course, they're working on it in the 17 countries that they operate across Europe, and that's a big job. So they're well down the track, but they're not there yet.
Okay, so maybe before we go into more specifics of how you turned so-called green, can you just tell us a bit more about Autorola in Australia, how long you've been here, and what your traditional sort of business model has been?
Carolyn, Autorola have been in Australia since 2008. They came here with the view of online auctions. And in the early days, it was quite tough getting going because the market here was was not online auctions, it was predominantly physical auctions. The whole model that Autorola use across Europe is very much online, and it's all about being lean and looking at processes to eliminate wasteful, expensive processes and move everything to an online environment, which we all know can be operated at a much lower cost. So the early days were tough, but we certainly got going, and we have some great clients that we work for and provide them remarketing services. A lot of those clients are particularly interested in stripping cost out of their remarketing programs, and that's what we help them with. And a lot of that forms the base of when you start thinking about the environmental situation and what you can eliminate that's unnecessary. And that's really what we've been able to do here in Australia.
Did you use a central auction house at some point of?
Well,
I know that's the big shift that you've made. You've changed the business model, or have you changed?
Well, we've always been online, so that means we don't have a physical site. We only have a virtual site. The buyers log into our auctions and bid and compete against each other, and the cars are scattered all over Australia, and we do some business in New Zealand. So and buyers can be anywhere, of course. The buyers can be in New Zealand. The buyers for some of our salvage products are actually in the Middle East. So the online space is the space to be going forward. It allows you to strip cost out of process. It allows you to evaluate a lot of the processes that get done to cars at physical auctions and eliminate them if they're not necessary. And that's really our focus. And it's working very well. What, of course, has given us a huge kick along in the last couple of years has been the COVID situation. Because of COVID, all the physical auctions were closed and they all moved to an online environment. But of course, they did retain their existing functions of taking all the cars to their own sites, which is what we don't do.
Okay, so you've never done that?
No.
Okay, so if your business model was always leaving the car at the seller's site,
yes,
how did you change to go net carbon neutral?
Right. Well, what we've done, and look, this takes back a long time. It actually takes us back to the time of the Gillard government in Australia, when there was talk about introducing a carbon tax. We, in our conversations with a lot of our clients, were keen to measure their footprint for transporting vehicles. Now, we know that you don't need to transport vehicles. We know that you can hold most of the cars that get sold for fleets in Australia. You can hold them at their point of origin. But we were talking to some of our clients about the ability to measure the footprint of what we often refer to as the first move. And if we could eliminate that first move, what that might look like. And at that point, I happened to meet a lady who had a business called Impact Sustainability. Her name was Hayley Morris, and she's the founder and director of Impact Sustainability. And we started investigating what it might look like if companies didn't move cars to physical auction locations. And that report was actually done about 10 years ago by Impact Sustainability. And that taught us a lot.
Yeah, wow. So let's keep going with this whole net carbon neutral.
Yes. Well, let me talk to you a bit more about what Haley's work did.
Okay.
Haley investigated the distance that cars were travelling to auctions. She also investigated what sorts of vehicles carted cars to auction, and the result of her work was that for every 1,000 cars that get moved, the carbon footprint on that is 92.8 tonnes of carbon per 1,000 cars moved. Now that's based on average transport distances to auctions and a whole lot of other factors that she looked at, but it's a considerable amount of carbon. Now, when you think of the volume of cars that go to auction around Australia, which is hundreds of thousands of cars, it's a huge footprint to have simply when that first move to auction is unnecessary. And that's really what we started looking at many years ago. And it's really come back into the fore now as the environmental mood here in Australia is moving back to the fact that everybody wants to reduce their carbon footprint.
I must say, hearing tonnages of carbon emissions saved is like just a bunch of big numbers that I don't quite know how to get my head around. Do you? I mean, how do you equate these numbers? What do they mean? Like saving, what did you say, 98 tonnes of carbon?
Yeah, 92.8. Look, it's clearly a lot of carbon. The point we're trying to make is the cars don't make any more money because you move them. It is an unnecessary part of the process because with online sales, you don't need to move cars anymore. And you know, it's just one thing that you can take out of the process. There are actually other elements that you can take out of the remarketing process too. But of course, some of these start to get very hard to measure. One example is the detailing of cars and the amount of water that gets used for detailing of cars. And there are other parts of the process that can be eliminated. Of course, in our ideal situation, cars are sold from where they are and they get delivered. They move for the first time on their way to the buyer. And, you know, that's one big step that we've made in being able to reduce the footprint.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so that's on that one.
So while we're talking technicalities, you corrected me in our sort of pre-interview to say net carbon neutral rather than carbon neutral. Can you explain the difference for us? Talk about that.
Well, I can explain our side, which is net carbon neutral, and that is that Autorola does create a modest footprint, and that modest footprint is created by the fact that we turn lights on here at the office and we run air conditioners, etc., and we do have a company fleet of cars, which I might say in December last year, we all our company cars were petrol. Now we have 50% of our company fleet is now hybrid. By the end of this year, the rest of our company fleet will be hybrid as well. And as we move forward, we will look at moving to some electric cars. But again, we just have to monitor what the usage is, how far the people drive to work, what they do with their company car, etc. But so we've made those improvements within our business. So you take our footprint, which Impact Sustainability did. Our footprint happened to be 48 tonnes was their official finding at the end of the audit. And that's when we went out and started looking for someone to do the offset with, and that's how we came across Green Fleet. We actually purchased from Green Fleet 50 tonnes because we felt that we needed some amount of buffer. The audit that was done on 2 years of our usage, and of course some of that 2 years was during COVID lockdowns, so we felt it might have been a little bit lower than it should have been. We will assess our footprint again later this year. If it has changed at all, and if it's gone up, we will obviously offset some more, but hopefully we are starting to work on reducing our footprint by, for one, moving our company fleet to hybrid vehicles.
We'll be back after a short break for a word from our sponsor, Sofico Services.
Sofico is a world-leading provider of enterprise software for the automotive leasing, finance, and mobility industry. For more than 30 years, international leasing companies and OEMs count on Sofico's expertise and technology to help them transform innovative product concepts into streamlined business processes and engaging customer experiences. With more than 370 experts, 8 offices on 4 continents, and an annual growth averaging 15%, Sofico is perfectly positioned to help its customers succeed in a rapidly changing market where electrification, shared fleets, and multimodal mobility challenge us and our customers to play a pioneering role. Continuous investment in people, innovation, and leading-edge technology is the basis for continued growth and success.
So, Autorola was an exhibitor at the AFMA Fleet Conference in Sydney earlier this year, and your stand featured signage highlighting your green credentials. Is having those credentials helping boost your business or market share in a field which is very competitive? I guess I'm curious about whether you think your customers really care if you're green or not.
That's a very good point. And look, there is 2 bits to this. One, Autorola want to be net carbon neutral. So that's the first thing. Number 2, we know that there is a lot of fleets out there who are working out how they can get their processes to be net carbon neutral and then perhaps go on to carbon neutral. And a part of that is people have to look at the whole supply chain of what happens with their vehicles. And we believe that there is a lot of corporates out there and in the public sector who are very, very keen to push forward with moving to a net carbon neutral position. And the fact that we're there already, we believe assists them in achieving their goals. So yes, there's a lot more interest out there today than there has been in the past, and I believe that enthusiasm to change to a net carbon position is on the increase, and we want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's certainly something that I'm detecting as well. Now, you talked earlier a little bit about your own fleet, so I was just curious about your own fleet, like how many vehicles, what do you use them for? And you said that you're moving to hybrid and in the future electric. But the market conditions, I was just reading earlier today that like hybrid is probably one of the most difficult vehicles to get your hands on at the moment. So is the difficulty in getting new vehicles sort of constraining you in achieving your goals?
Absolutely. We, like most fleets, are having trouble finding cars even for our own company fleet. There is no doubt we have paid very high prices for some of these cars to put into our fleet. So that has come at a cost, but finding them has been very, very difficult. And getting the rest of the fleet, and our fleet's not large. It's only 6 vehicles. So we've got to find another 3 vehicles. And there is no doubt we will have to pay a very high price to get those. The sorts of vehicles we have been sourcing have been either new or demonstrator vehicles. So that's what we've been focusing on. But yes, they're very expensive.
And what are those vehicles used for?
Well, we have guys that are out visiting clients. So we have a couple of hybrids that are out doing that work. A couple of them are for senior people like myself. Now, I get a company car as a part of my package. I'm lucky to live near the office, so I actually walk to work quite a bit. But my car has not been changed over yet to be a hybrid because I actually do the least kilometres. I do the least kilometres in the whole office, but our reps that are on the road, they're the guys doing the bigger kilometres, because in our business, it is still very important to meet people face to face. And often we are involved in going out to look at people's fleets to evaluate the best path of remarketing.
Yeah. This next question is a bit off topic, but as you're in the business of reselling used vehicles, what is happening with sales prices? I mean, I know they've risen steeply over the last couple of years, but maybe you can talk about that and tell us if you think they are plateauing now. I'm curious, as I want to help my daughter buy her first car this year.
Look, it's used cars are at the strongest values, as far as I know, ever in history. I've been in this game now for 35 years and I've never seen used car prices as strong as they are. I've never seen new cars having the supply difficulties that they currently have. So the situation as we see it at the moment is that late model, particularly low kilometre cars, are continuing to increase in value. And it depends a little bit on the make and model as to how strong that is. You mentioned before that hybrids are in huge demand, and they are both new and used. Hybrids are very hard to get hold of. If there's one area that is perhaps not moving up as quickly is the older cars. You know, if we talk about plateauing, they may have plateaued. I'm not sure. It's very hard to say, and it's the old supply and demand equation at work here, and supply is still very scarce and demand is high. So on late model low kilometre, I see that continuing to gently move upwards.
And finally, I was just wanting to get you to give us some tips, or, you know, what guidance would you give to fleet managers embarking on this journey themselves to go greener, and maybe what are some of the pitfalls for them to watch out for?
Well, I think vehicle selection is a big part of that. I think when we as a company looked at going straight to electric vehicles, we did have some issues here in our rented offices as to where charge stations could be. So that's a little bit of an issue. But as far as remarketing their current vehicles go, you know, one of the processes that we operate extremely successfully for a lot of fleets nowadays is what we refer to as upstream selling. And the way that works, that we are looking at their cars before they come off the road, and that might be 30 days before. They at that point can have their vehicles assessed for damage and see if there's any insurance work that can be done on those cars so they can put it through their insurance company. and then the cars are auctioned online prior to them being defleeted. So on the day that you defleet your cars, on day 0, the car is already sold, and we pick it up and send it straight to the purchaser. And that's certainly a methodology that, one, is assisted by online remarketing, and of course that is the ultimate in saving any transport to a location where vehicles then might get sold.
Is there anything else that, like my question hasn't sort of drawn out, that you might think is valuable to our fleet audience?
Look, I think, coming from our Danish heritage, they are focused very much on lean processes. And when I go over and visit the guys over in Denmark and sit in meetings, I'm always interested that there is a very strong focus on assessing the value of some of the processes that may be being done by some fleets to their cars. For instance, detailing, rectification is one that comes under scrutiny a lot as to the value of it. And these are the sorts of areas that if you really think lean and you start doing some measurement, you can really see that some of these processes don't add value. In fact, some of them only cost you money. So it's worth considering things, and we're very happy to work with people and look at those possible savings or lean ways of operating. They often refer to it in Denmark as lean remarketing, and that's what they focus on.
Oh, it sounds like another story for me. Anyway, Philip, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us about your journey and insights. It was a great lesson and inspiration to share with our audience.
Carolyn, thank you very much. It was most enjoyable.
You've been listening to Fleet Auto News podcast. It was edited and produced by Isabella Fiorentino. Thank you again to our new sponsor, Sofico Services. It's great to have you on board. The original theme music for this podcast was created by Isabella Fiorentino. You can follow us on Spotify. Just search for Fleet Auto News. We're also on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Our website is fleetautonews.com, where you can get all our stories, videos and podcasts. Until next time, drive safely and take care.